I'd like to explore with you the relationship between sociocracy and the various other methods currently being used or discussed in the context of the future of organizations and of work. How does sociocracy fit in with Lean, Teal, Agile, and all the many other recent movements? Where does sociocracy sit? Hi, I'm François Knuchel, and I've been involved with sociocracy for almost 10 years now. But I first came across it because I was looking for a solution to a problem in Lean, the Toyota production and management system. I learned Lean manufacturing in the automotive plants in Japan. And later back in the West, I was looking for a way to introduce, as part of implementing Lean, the way the Japanese do participatory decision-making. Their way of empowering staff just wasn't working here in the West because it is culturally anchored. The Japanese do it naturally, so they did not, or they had not developed a specific system as such for it. And I soon realized that I needed an explicit approach which had been developed in the West. And that's how I eventually came across sociocracy. At the time, sociocracy was to me a Western piece of the much larger Lean production and management system, though it then became a passion in its own right. Taiichi Ohno, one of the founding fathers of Toyota production system, famously said that they were in two businesses, that of monotsukuri and hitotsukuri. That is, making things, in this case cars, and making people, that is, developing people. And one of the key principles of Lean is that of jidoka, which is a play of words, or kanji. Ji meaning self, ka meaning power, and do meaning either move or manage. And jidoka translates as either automation, moving by itself, or autonomy, relying on the self, independence, and from which we get the unusual combined word autonomation. Both automatic and autonomous, but implicitly also self-managed and self-regenerative. So coming back to the principle of making people, the whole purpose of that was to develop everyone right to the shop floor by giving them the tools, the right information, and everything they need such that they could operate automatically without the need of commands from anybody, and autonomously, independently, being able to make their own decisions by themselves or as part of teams. In other words, a major element of Lean operations is this whole emphasis on the human development side. And this, I should say, is the part that got lost in translation in the West. Of course, there's a lot more to Lean than that, like just in time, Kaizen, 5S, Pokayoka, total quality control, single digit change, and-on, one-piece production, total preventative maintenance, leveling, stream mapping, and so on. But all of these are technical in nature and only work if the shop floor operators are fully engaged autonomously, making their own decisions and quality feedback. In the 1980s, Toyota were quite secretive about their approach, thinking the West would copy them and they would soon otherwise lose their competitive advantage. They needn't have been. 20 years later, they openly published their secrets in a 14-point document. And the funny thing is, even today, most Western companies still don't get it. And that is because they focus on the mechanics of it, while largely ignoring the other half, the human aspect that make it work. No doubt there have been many inroads applying lean principles in the West, in and beyond manufacturing, indeed in hospitals, in the construction, in transportation industries, to name just a few. But there are some industries where the technical aspect of lean do not work. They do not apply. Specifically, this is the case in the more creative and development industries. And indeed, this is what gave rise to the Agile movement in IT and software development. While Agile also has a technical side to it, expressed in Scrum, product owners, sprints, reviews, SAFe, Kanban, sprint retros, daily stand-ups, backlogs, and so on, the essence of Agile is expressed in the Agile Manifesto, which is all about people before processes, customer satisfaction over profit, and fundamentally putting the human aspect over the technical one. And that is fundamentally the same principle as that of hitotsukuri, making people, aspect found in lean. Indeed, that's why Agile people often refer to the lean heritage, sometimes actually thinking it's the same thing. In Agile, the words lean and agile are often used almost interchangeably, whereas in lean, that would be completely inconceivable. Nevertheless, the Agile Manifesto and hitotsukuri are where the two do join. So while the mechanics of lean and agile are quite different, the fundamental emphasis on the human side is the heart of both, as it is to many of the other movements mentioned, such as conscious, sharing economy, circular economy, responsive, sociocracy, holacracy. They're all different in their own way, but what they all have in common, more or less, is this focus on the human side. And by that, I don't just mean people-centeredness and humaneness, but also developing people in communities in such a way that they can grow and achieve their full potential, developing themselves and thereby contributing to the groups they are part of. And where workplaces move from being places of drudgery to places of collaborative growth, learning and development, and even of joy and living. So why don't lean and agile talk to each other? Well, despite their being linked and of the same breed through the human development side of things, they don't talk to each other in the same way that production people rarely talk to IT people, and for the same reason that siloed finance people don't talk to siloed marketing people. That is, in our world of specialization and fragmentation, they don't actually understand each other. So the rebels among the finance people have developed independently, come up with their own version of human development in the 12 principles of beyond budgeting, which is absolutely great. But in the end, they are the local or functional variations of the same fundamental theme, that of putting people first and making workplaces, amongst other things, a place of joy and learning. So what about sociocracy? Well, technically, it's about governance, collective decision-making, and distributed leadership, and actually complements many of the other movements. However, fundamentally, the same principle applies, putting people first, all people, with a way that enables everyone's voice to be heard and respected in the particular context that affects them. It's about people and community development. All these methods are technically different, and we argue about the differences. Sometimes we even compete, though I tend to see them more as being complementing each other. They are also all of the same blood philosophically, that is, around humans and learning. They all point to a beautiful vision for the future of work, if indeed we ever make that transition, because the current reality is somewhat different. That of organizations and workplaces being places of self-actualization and growth. But I'd like to throw a spanner in the works, something that I was made aware of by London Business School professor and Gary Hamel collaborator Julian Birkinshaw, who has basically said there's not one choice into the future, that of being stuck in the past of command and control bureaucracy, or of moving forward to new forms, but there are actually two incompatible trends into the future. One he refers to as the digital transformation, and the other one he refers to as the ad hoc transformation, named so because it is unpredictable, fluid, learning by trying, emergent, and unmanaged. What I would prefer to call organic. Organic because it's based on living and biology, self-regeneration, holistic. He says that while both are alternatives to the current bureaucratic command and control approach, the two are actually going in opposite directions. By definition, digital relies more on being able to decode all aspects of the world, of business, of operations, and so on, down to a basic level of 1 and 0. And when you think about it, that's the ultimate in mechanistic thinking. And this is almost the opposite of analog, organic, emergent thinking. When seen from this vantage point, sociocracy appears quite mechanistic. The first key statement of the sociocratic norms states that its purpose is to demonstrate equivalence in decision-making. In other words, the strict one-by-one rounds in strict sequence of clarifying, reacting, consenting are there to demonstrate clearly that everyone was able to put equal value in the collective decision-making. A quite mechanistic process in the way that counting votes is mechanistic in democratic elections. And this mechanistic nature has always troubled me a little as a sociocrat, because I also have an inclination towards organic, regenerative aliveness of things, fluid, unpredictable, and imperfect as that may be. And so in my own practice, I've always counterbalanced sociocracy with open space technology, which is more self-organizing, organic, and magical and alive. Both aim for similar human-centered things, but one is more mechanistic, the other is more organic in nature. So as a consequence, I increasingly see sociocracy not as a goal, but as a means. In the early days, I used to ask myself, how can we make organizations more sociocratic? How do we transform them to be sociocratic, as if sociocracy was the goal? Nowadays, I see this question rather irrelevant. After all, the goal should be creating workplaces of joy and self-development. Rather, I now see sociocracy as a means, I now see sociocracy as well as lean, agile, beyond budgeting, as different means and training grounds for getting there. Because sociocracy grew out of the traditional company structure to begin with, its practices might be excellent learning platforms to help organizations transform from their current plan and control, hierarchical, bureaucratic modus operandi towards self-organized organic entities. By giving people tools to change habits, initially by mechanistically going through all the motions that will over time put people in a different mindset with new habits. This is precisely what Toyota and others did in the 1960s to 80s, when they retrained their whole management staff from being commanders to being coaches and stewards, nurturing their teams. The principle is called kata, and kata are mechanistic practice steps like little workouts, a few steps at a time, as when learning to dance, which help people change habits and learn new patterns. So in this view, the principles and key practices of sociocracy could become learning kata, which could enable organizations to transform to a more what could be called Teal mindset, where self-management and autonomy, where holistic and integral thinking and whole person thinking, and where emergent organic development and purpose are the rule. Personally, I prefer Sociocracy because of its fundamental simplicity, just 4 principles, and it works as an empty vessel. That is, it can integrate well with any other tool or approach. And digitalization need not be a different futuristic path of being ruled merely by coding, as Birkinshaw has suggested, but could ironically also provide kata steps to help us move from the mechanistic mindset to a more organic and emergent one. Finally, I should say, we often speak of these approaches as if they were the panacea of the future. We guard them fervently against other similar approaches. There was an attempt in 2012 to try to bring these various approaches together in order to achieve more collective impact, resulting in STORS and SPARK, but this was then drowned out by Teal, and no doubt something else will come along soon. However, I don't think that our goal should be a grand unified organic theory of the future. On the contrary, I take comfort in the diversity of ideas, methods, and approaches, and rather than taking an either-or perspective, that is, either agile or lean, either sociocracy or holacracy, either responsive or conscious, and so on, we take a both and complementary point of view, all helping us maintain a balanced diet of methodological ingredients. I therefore invite us all to embrace this diversity of ideas and celebrate complementarity with a view of making our organizations of the future places, human places of collaboration, of learning, and ultimately of joy and achievement in the workplace.